Hi, everybody. Good morning. I hope you're off to a really great start of your day. I'm Miss Bray, and we're going to go ahead and get started in this lesson that I have created for you guys. So today we're going to be learning all about measurement part 2. If you tuned into my lesson last time, you know that we covered measurement and we measured with some non-standard unit measurement. So now we are going to be learning all about standard unit measurement, and you're specifically today going to be measuring the length of an item with a ruler, which I have here. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's first go ahead and talk about some of these various measuring tools and how we measure them. So this photo off to your right here, which I am circling around, it says Steve's house measuring length, right? So today we're going to be focusing all on length. And when we measure length, we are measuring how long something is. So for example, I have this wheat thins box, and we're going to be measuring later how long this item is, okay? But before we get into that, let's go ahead and cover some topics here. So we use a ruler, which is this first image that you see from the number 1 to 12. And we use this specifically to measure smaller things, right? Like a pencil in our photo here. The next thing that we have is a yardstick. So we use a yardstick, or also known as a meter stick, to measure bigger things like a table. So this image below right here is a yardstick. Next, we use a plastic tape measure to measure curvy objects. Curvy objects are going to be things like our waist, things maybe like this circle little holder for toothpicks, right? With a ruler, I cannot measure this, but with a curvy plastic tape measure, it is bendable, so you're able to measure that. Lastly, we have a metal tape measure, and it looks just like our plastic tape measure. The only difference is that it's this image down here is that it's metal, and it's a lot longer. It is about 50 to 200 feet long, so you're able to measure bigger objects like a house. So let's just review that quickly. So first we have a ruler, right? So this is to measure smaller objects. We have a yard or meter stick, and this is to measure larger objects like a table. And then we have a plastic tape measure. This is to measure curvy things, circular things, something to measure around, the distance around. And then we also have a metal tape measure, and this is used to measure big objects, right? Big objects that we cannot measure with regular rulers, right? Because it's just too big. So now I created this little activity. We're going to choose, we're going to be measuring an object that is going to be this image right here, so a nail. So now, should we measure the length of a nail, right? This is the length of a nail with a ruler or a plastic tape measure? Think about that one. So this nail, should we measure that with a ruler or a plastic tape measure? Well, we know that a ruler is used to measure, a metal tape measure. I'm sorry, I've been saying plastic, a metal. So we know that a ruler is used to measure small things, and we know that a metal tape measure is used to measure very large objects. So the correct answer is a ruler, because we know that a nail is a very small object, and we know that it's not going to exceed 12 inches long. So if you picked ruler, go ahead and give yourself a big pat on the back. The next item that we are going to measure here is a soccer ball, right? So now we have a soccer ball. Should we measure the length of a soccer ball with a ruler or a plastic tape measure? So for this one, I want you to think, if I'm measuring something that is round, is my measuring tool, is it able to wrap around that soccer ball? Do you think something hard and stiff like a ruler is able to bend and wrap around? No. If I was to bend this, it would actually snap in half. So a ruler would not work in this case. So if we are measuring the length of a soccer ball, we want to use a plastic tape measure because we know that plastic is able to bend and we are able to measure the length around that soccer ball. So good job if you chose a plastic tape measure. Next, we have a door, right? Will we measure the length of a door with a ruler or a yardstick? So if you remember, a yardstick is very long. It is about 3 rulers, right? So if you can imagine 3 of these rulers, that is how long a yardstick is. And if we're measuring a door, we know that a door is a bigger object. So we know that if I was to measure the length of my door over here, I know you cannot really see this very well, but I would need multiple rulers. So ideally, we would want to use a yardstick to measure the length of a door. Lastly, we have a house. Will we measure the length of a house with a metal tape measure or a ruler? Think about that one for a minute. Will we use a ruler to measure a house or a metal tape measure? Well, we know that a ruler, again, is used to measure very small objects, and we know that a metal tape measure is used to measure very large objects. So in this case scenario, if I'm wanting to measure how long a house is, I am going to want to use a metal tape measure because we know that a metal tape measure is 1, durable, right? It is durable to measure a house. And 2, we know that a metal tape measure offers up to 200 feet in, or 200 feet. So we know that it has a lot more length to it. So we're going to be able to accurately measure our house's length. So that is why using a metal tape measure is going to be used to measure a house. So now I'm going to switch this over here. So now I have a fun activity for you guys planned, and I would like for you to go find one item in your house, okay? One item in your house that you're going to measure. So I'm going to measure my wheat thins box, and I'm also going to measure a smaller box to show you the difference in length. And I want you to also find something that you can measure with, okay? So go find a measuring tool. I have my own ruler at home. So if you would like to take the next couple minutes, just go ahead and pause this video. Go ask your mom or dad if they have any type of those measuring tools available. Go find one item to measure in your house and go find one measuring tool to measure that item within your house. So I will go ahead and I'm going to pause this video, or I would like you to pause this video, take the next couple minutes that you need, and tune back in. Okay, boys and girls, welcome back. I would like for you to go ahead and identify the tool that you're going to be measuring with. So I'm going to be measuring with a ruler. Before we go ahead and start measuring, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to point out some key information as to how we measure with a ruler, okay? So I know that my ruler is clear, so it might be a little bit tough to see these numbers. I apologize. That might be a little bit better. On a ruler, there is a bunch of numbers, okay? You should have to this side, the side pointing up, where it starts with 0, okay? And it ends at 12. This side is going to represent inches. The side on the other side where there's numbers 0 to 30 is going to identify centimeters, okay? It's going to measure whatever your measuring object is, you're going to be measuring in centimeters, okay? For this given lesson, we're going to be identifying how long our object is in inches, okay? So do not worry about that bottom part. So the way that we measure is we always start our object at 0, okay? 0, you'll notice we always start at 0 when we count. We go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up. 0 is the first number in our number system. So that is why we're going to always begin whatever we are measuring with at 0. So for example, I have my wheat thins box, and if I just put my ruler here, and then I read from the top to the bottom, you can see it stops at a number. So the number that my wheat thins box stopped at is 9. So my wheat thins box is 9 inches long. I know that's kind of hard to see, so I'm quickly going to try and adjust my screen. Here we go. So if I am measuring, I am putting my ruler at the very beginning of my box. We want to make sure our ruler is straight. And I am measuring at 8 inches long, right here where my finger starts. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, it was backwards. So it starts at 0 and it ends right here at 9, if you can see that, where my finger ends. So my wheat thins box is exactly 9 inches long, okay? So we have 0, we have 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches, 7 inches, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 inches. Okay, so if you can remember correctly, the top of your ruler, right, where there's less numbers, where it goes up to 12, is going to be your inches side. The bottom of this ruler, where it goes 0, all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up until 30, is going to be our centimeters. Centimeters are smaller units of measure. Inches are just a little bit bigger. That is why there's less numbers, and that's why they are more spread apart. Okay, so you'll notice there's about a 2-finger difference in between the 0 and a 1. Same thing between the 1 and 2, right? So we're specifically going to be measuring in inches for this lesson. So now I would like for you to grab whatever object of measurement that you chose in your kitchen or your home. I would like for you to take that out and begin measuring. While you're doing that, I'm going to be measuring my pasta noodle box. So I know, and I'm going to compare the two numbers. So I know that my wheat thins box was 9 inches long. We always state what we are measuring, so it was 9 inches long. So now let's check out how long my pasta noodle box is. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and you should be doing this along. And I am measuring in at 7 inches long. I will go ahead and set this up a little bit differently so you can possibly see this better. So remember, we are measuring the length. This is how long something is. This is going to be my width right here. Length is how long it is. Your width is how wide it is. So the length, I'm going to measure up. I'm going to put my 0. And let's see. it stopped right here. It is exactly 7 inches long. Just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and measure the width. 0, and I see, oh, it is, ooh, it's not quite to 5 inches long. It was right in the middle between the 4 and a 5. So because it landed right in the middle, this tick mark here, that is going to be 4.5 inches long, right? Because we know 4 in between 4 and 5 is going to be a half, right? So 4.5 inches long is how wide my pasta noodle box is. So now I did 2 items. I would like for you guys to again pause this video, take the next couple minutes and go see if you have another item that you can measure. All right, friends. So I hope you're able to grab another item in your house. So I have a picture right here. This is a picture that I painted. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure my length. Do you guys remember which direction the length is going to be? If you answered this way, that is correct. Your length is how long your item is, your object. When we are going across, you're measuring width. So we are going to specifically today be measuring our length. If you're up for a challenge, go ahead and measure the width. Let's get started. So I'm going to line up my ruler just like this. Make sure that ruler is straight. Sorry, it's kind of hard to read backwards. Okay. Oh, okay, so this picture is again not exactly an exact inch long. My picture is about 9.5 inches long. So you can see we are almost to 10. So we're gonna go ahead and say this is about 9.5 inches long. All right. For the fun of it, if you were up for that challenge to measure the width of your item, let's go ahead and measure that width of my picture. So the first thing you're going to do, if you remember correctly, is you're going to measure starting at 0, always 0, okay? We do not want to start at the end because that would not give us an accurate number, an accurate, correct measurement. Measurement is all about accuracy, okay? It's all about getting that correct answer. So I'm going to start at the very end, and I'm going to stop at the very end of my picture. So we can see here it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, 7.5, right? Right in the middle there. It is in the half, it's a half, right? So it's almost to that 8. So my picture measured in at 9.5 inches long. If you were up for that challenge to measure the width, my picture, the width of my picture is about 7.5 inches long, or inches wide, I'm sorry. So 7.5 inches wide. Crazy, huh? Measuring is so fun. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen with you one more time. I want to review all of what we've done today. I want to start from the beginning just to clarify and go over some of those measuring tools that we have. So why do we use a measuring ruler? Why do we use a ruler? To measure small things. Why do we use a yardstick? When would we use that? Well, we would use that to measure something big, right? Like a table. When would we use a plastic tape measure? Is that to measure something small or something big? Well, it might be, but majority, we always use a plastic tape measure to measure curvy or circular objects, right? Things that might go, that are like jig-jagged, right? Like maybe like stairs, how they go like this. You could use a plastic tape measure. You could use it to measure something round that goes all the way around. And when would we use a metal tape measure? Like this image right here. We would use that when we are measuring things like a house, right? Very large items, large objects. So measuring a nail again. Do we remember what tool we use to measure a nail? Think about that one. Do we use this item right here that is called a metal tape measure to measure large objects? No. We know that a nail is small, so we know that the most accurate form of measurement is going to be to use a ruler. To measure a soccer ball, are we going to measure a soccer ball with a ruler or a plastic tape measure? Think about that one. If we want to go around the soccer ball to see how long it is, we want to use a ruler, right? No, we don't, because this is not able to bend, right? We want to actually use a plastic tape measure because we know that it is curvy. We know that this object is curvy, right? Has some dimension to it. So we're going to be using a plastic tape measure to use that, to measure that. Next, we have a door. Will we measure the length of a door with a ruler or a yardstick? Think about that one again. A door. Do I want to be constantly stacking this ruler all along the door? Then you might have to have 2 sets of hands to do that. You could do it, but you'd have to have 2 sets of hands. So a yardstick would be the best form of measurement to measure a door because we know that a door is larger and we know that a yardstick has a large number of measurement on it. And lastly, a house. We're going to use this object. Are we going to use this form of measurement, a ruler, to measure the house? Or are we going to use a tape measure, a metal tape measure to measure the length of a house? We're going to use a metal tape measure because we know that a house is big and we know that a metal tape measure has a lot more length to it than a ruler. So we're going to use our metal tape measure. So now, when we measure smaller things, do you remember what form of measurement we use? Do we use a ruler to measure smaller things or larger things? We use a ruler to measure smaller things, correct. What do we use a plastic tape measure for and a metal tape measure for? Well, we use a plastic tape measure to measure objects that are curvy or round, and we use a metal tape measure to measure things that are large. So if we want to measure a playground, the length of a playground, we're going to use a metal tape measure. And if we want to measure an item like my toothpick container, we're going to use a plastic tape measure. Can we measure things that are curvy? Yes, we can. We can measure this curvy item, circular item, with a plastic tape measure. So if you have any measuring tools at home, I encourage you to practice measuring at home. If you have a plastic tape measure or a metal tape measure, I just thought of this. If you have a metal tape measure, measure how tall you are, right? I know that I am 5'5", 5 feet and 5 inches tall. So get a parent to help you out measuring the length of how tall you are, your height, with a metal tape measure. That is another way to use that. So I encourage you to do that at home. Thank you so much for tuning into my lesson. I had so much teaching you guys, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.